So, welcome back. Once again, my name is D'Amico L. Cunningham, and we are back here with polymodeling the NSX inside of 3D Studio Max. So, since our last video, let's look at some things that I've done inside of the viewport. What I have done, I have continued to work on this side fender and this quarter panel back here, and I've put in a little bit of rough detail, as you can see, into this piece. We've even got the bumper coming around here, and this looks pretty good. Looks nice and smooth, nice and tight, as I still work around this. Now, I can see where, if I look at my profile of the car, and this is where you'll start to notice things get a little bit funky. And that's okay, because right now I can see I have my realistic, I have a view of this that I believe, and I know because I've seen other pictures of it, I have reference images of this, that the car actually follows these contours. That's this kind of slope that goes right here and down. Now, the images that I have don't exactly line up. So this is the point where I'm going to take a little bit of modeling freedom and get this to look right based off of the real world pictures, and kind of just use the 3D pictures or the images I have, or the blueprints that I have, as more of a reference and not as a literal look of what this is going to look like. So this is where I kind of depart, not necessarily from reality, but I kind of depart from what I'm seeing in my viewport and what I know to be true. So what I have on these, I have smoothing on these, I have NURM smoothing on these. If you go to the very bottom of your sub panel, of your sub object rollout, you'll see a setting for subdivision surface. Now you can say use NURM subdivision, and you can turn this off and you can turn this on. Basically what this does is it shows you what a smooth version of your polygons will look like. And when you smooth this, do not think it's some kind of special trick, because when you put your smooth on, you are adding more polygons. It is adding enough polygons to actually smooth this out. Now it's adding them in a way that's sort of non-destructive, so you can go back and take that off and put it back on whenever you need it to see what your smooth version of your model is going to look like. So keep that in mind. You can smooth it, you can turn that off, turn that on, and get an idea of what your model is going to look like. All right, so right now I'm going to turn that off. Now it is very, the NURMS function, the subdivision function, is very memory dependent. So if you don't have a lot of memory in your machine and you feel it starting to lag out a little bit, then you probably want to turn off that function and not use it. One thing I want to clean up that I'm looking at, and before it didn't bother me, but now I kind of don't like it, and it's this configuration right here, because I've got this quad right here and I have this triangle right here, and I want to get rid of this triangle. So I'm going to come in here, hold control, come in here to edit edges, and I'm going to say remove. Let's go into vertex mode, grab this vertice, and also say remove. And while I'm still in vertex mode, I'm going to activate edit geometry, and I'll say cut, and I'm going to cut from this vertex over to this edge, and then right click to end that process, and then click here on this vertex, and then click over to this edge. And what that does is it just cleans up my topology of my model a little bit better. It gives me something I can actually work with a little bit more, and I can get this smoothed out a little bit better. It's going to give me better smoothing in the end. Like, realistically, that's what it's going to do, is give me a little bit better smoothing that I can do with my model, and this will look a lot better. I can space these guys out a little bit better. You want to be able to use your, especially when you're trying to keep things a little bit on the lower side, you want to be able to use your polygons as efficiently as possible. And sometimes that means reconfiguring your topology of your model. Sometimes you can get away with what you already have. It just depends on what you're trying to accomplish with your model. So sometimes it works for the best, sometimes not so much. So it really depends on what you're trying to get and what kind of look you're trying to get or accomplish with your model. So, keep that in mind as you work with your pieces on your model. Just keep that in mind. Same thing here. If I really want to get rid of these two triangles, I could come in here, stay back in vertex mode, go to cut, and actually cut from this edge all the way across over here to this edge, and that would actually remove my two triangles in there and give me these quads, albeit they're very weird quads. It would give me quads again on these two polygons, but there's really not a necessary reason to do that, so I can take that back out. So let's continue on with this. What I want to continue with now is I'm looking at this bottom portion of my door, the rocker part of this door. And I want to get this because I can see, at least from what it seems, this starts right about here and ends right about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and go to edge mode. I'm going to grab these edges around the side of this. Right, like that. And I'm going to get my scale tool. So I'm going to hit R on the keyboard to get my scale tool, and I'm going to hold down shift, and I'm just going to scale this out this way, and then get my move tool and pull this down. And you can see I've made a copy once again of those polygons. I'm just going to grab this, go into polygon mode, grab these polygons along here, and hold down shift and drag this off in Y. It's going to ask me, do I want to clone it to an element or to an object? I'm going to say to an object and hit OK. And I'll go back into my mesh that I duplicated off of and just delete that, because I need the smooth, but I need the polygons rather, but I don't want all the other stuff. So I'm going to go into subdivision surface on this guy, turn off use NURMS, and I'll hit 6 to come back to the top level. And once again, I'm going to go into subdivision surface mode and turn off use NURMS, and I can see what my real piece looks like. As always, I can go into hierarchy and say effect pivot only and say I want to center to object, and then turn off effect pivot only, and I have my piece set up right here. So this right here is going to be like this. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of cleanup, but this is actually a lot easier to do cleanup on than it would be to go in here and make all these pieces. So I'm just going to grab this, pull this up, grab this, pull this just like right about here. This can go down here, and this down here, and we'll get this stuff lined up over here as to where we're going to go next with all these pieces. So just as always, by using the pieces of my mesh I already had, I can keep the stuff lined up pretty much. I'm going to come over here, hold control, click this other edge, then I'll hold down shift to drag a copy off and drag another copy off, or actually extrude rather. Not really a copy, but it's really an extrusion. It really is a quick way to extrude. So remember, you can hold shift, you can grab an edge, hold shift, and then drag that edge, and it will make a extrusion. It'll extrude your edge for you automatically, which is kind of nice. It's kind of a nice quick way to be able to do this. And I can see that looks pretty good from what I have. And this right here, once again, you have to remember that these pieces, and one thing that it kind of happens when you're modeling in 3D, is that you tend to want to make things really, 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 really precise. But the thing about it is that usually in real life things are not that precise. They make thousands of these cars, of course, and each car is relatively similar to the others. There's always going to be something that's a little bit different. Maybe the paint will show a different way on one car than opposed to the other. There's going to be something. There's going to be certain things that are going to look a little different from car to car. So those little imperfections are going to keep this car being its own car. It's going to make it what it is, pretty much. So I've got that taken care of. I've got the rocker panel down here. I'm going to do the door up here. So once again, let's go back into edge mode, and I'll grab some handy dandy edges because they're already going the way I want them to go. That one there, control, click this guy, this, and then this. And let's extrude those out, hold shift and drag these out. And then I'll go into polygon mode, select these polygons, hold shift and drag these off. It will ask me once again, do I want to make an element? I'll say yes, make an element. Go back into my model that I already had, grab these edges and just delete them. And then I'll hit 6 to come out to top level mode, and then I can select this guy over here. Once again, back to hierarchy, effect pivot only, and center object to world. So now I have this all over again. I'll hit Alt and X to go into X-ray mode, and let's look at how we're going to line this stuff up. So once again, I'll hit 1 to go to vertex mode, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this up here. I'm going to pull this up. So I'm kind of changing the configuration just a tad, just a little bit, because I want these to go a little bit different way than they're already going. So I grab this and this. Let's pull this back some. Now remember, if I need to go back and reconfigure these guys, I can. They're not set in stone. And I think I'm going to pull this back a little bit more. Start getting this where I can round this out. Just a tad. Alright, so into edge mode, and I'll grab all those edges, hold shift, drag these out. So right about here, coming here to vertex mode. This is going to go up. This is going to go up as well. Then these. And remember, we're going to get some good spacing on this. I can see now I can probably move this right about here. Grab this and grab this. So I'm just arranging these. Trying to keep them pretty clean as I arrange them. Let's look at this in my top view and see what we have going on here. So in my top view, I can see this, and this is why I have this so close to this. This will be that corner right there. This will be here. This will be here. And this is going to start to be closer in to the body here. And I've got this stuff that's kind of floating out here in space. Let's go ahead and drag a marquee selection over all these and just pull them in this view. And then once again, I've got some more floaters out here floating away from the body. Let's suck those guys in. And then these right here are going to be sucked in as well. Alright. So I've got those pulled in. I'm going to make this gap just a little less prominent between these panels. Gotta curve this. Because what I want to end up doing is just like everything else. I'm going to continue on and just keep extruding these edges. So I'll hold shift. And I'm going to get this to like a point of right here somewhere. Now this gets really tricky when you're looking at this in your viewport, because you can see these are going to come delicately close to each other. So you don't want these to get too close on top of each other. They'll start to bind up. They'll actually start to look like they're pinching on the surface. So you want to be very careful about how you're using this stuff. And actually you might even come in here, and what I might do is maybe remove one of these edges or one of these edge loops that are already in here, because I might not need it on the front panel. Like the front panel might be close enough that I don't need these extra vertices kind of trying to help me along, but really causing me more problems than adding detail to the geometry or detail to the mesh. So let's kind of space these guys out a little bit better. Get these up. Get this up. This too. You always want to be paying attention to your topology and which way it's going, because the topology really does lend itself to surface detail and how things are going. I'm just going to get my scale tool and clean these up a little bit. I can use my scale tool and scale those and kind of scale them flat. That's a cool little trick to be able to make objects, kind of scale flat when you need them to. So you can scale those guys flat that way. And looking at this in my top view, I can see that my contours are getting hit pretty good, actually. This right here is this guy, and it looks really weird inside of my top view, but I think I'm going to be able to do this maybe with one less edge. So I might be able to take this edge right here, that's right here and here, and take this out. I'm actually going to remove this. I'm thinking I don't really need that edge. I'm thinking it's really not doing anything for my mesh. It's not helping it along, so I'm just going to remove it. And the reason why I can say that I will remove this is if I look at this from just a topology standpoint, I can already see that this is a straight line from here to here. There's no curves, there's no movement, there's nothing. So I don't really need those three pieces kind of just floating around in there. So instead of having them floating, I'm just going to get rid of them because I don't want to mess up my mesh. And this looks as though it is pretty darn good. And this right here is actually, this is the fender that's flaring out. And this is the body piece that's kind of pushing this down. Now, you have to be very careful when you look at these pieces, because when you see it with the smooth on it, you go to subdivision. Like if you've done it in another viewport, then it's okay to kind of fiddle around with it a little bit, but don't go crazy with it. The other thing that I'm going to change is I'm going to change some of this topology a little bit. I'm going to go to Vertex Mode, and I'm going to go here to Edit Geometry. I'm going to cut this right here, right across there, just like that. So now I have this little bit of a triangle. I'll get rid of this guy. I'm just going to target weld it. So let's go in here and get target weld and this to this. And that looks good. Because I do need this piece to remain flat right here. Like I need this piece to still be flat, but I don't need it to do any other movement. Like I need it to be flat when it goes from this profile here to here, but I need this to stay relatively tight. And by using that triangle right there, right at the corner of that, I can get the look that I really need and keep it the way that I want it to be. So that works out well. So I'm going to continue with this and go around this, and what I'm going to do really quick is show you guys how I can get this fender piece to be on this edge coming out the side. So I'll select all those edges, hold shift, and I'm just going to move this forward, and then come in here and get vertex mode and grab this and pull this down. Alright, so I've got this going on, just like that. Alright, so when I come back, I'll continue modeling inside of 3D Studio Max, and we'll be right back after this.